you have solved equations since you were just a little kid. You started solving equations that might have looked like this. 2 plus equals 5. Good, good. Okay. And then you moved to this, right? And then you moved to quadratics, and you did some rational functions, and you've done a whole lot of solving equations in your lifetime, but you've never solved equations with trig functions in them. So today's lesson is how do you solve equations with trig? And they're not difficult at all. What do you mean you don't? Now, we're just going to start. Consider the trig equation secant theta equals 2 root 3 over 3. Now, Sparks outlines a process, and he takes you through this process once or twice, I can't remember. I don't use his process because I just kind of have it in my mind of how I do it, but I'm going to walk you through it the first time, okay? We are looking for 2 values of theta. Now notice, 2 values. The only time when you were doing x that you knew you were going to have 2 answers is when it was x squared, right? In trig, very often we're going to have multiple answers. But I'll teach you. Now we are looking for 2 values of theta on this interval. Now notice we are in degrees, and it says without a calculator. So when we do get to a calculator, we're going to have to pay attention to what mode we need to be in, degree or radian. Secant. I don't know a darn thing about secant, except it's the reciprocal of cosine. So look at step 1. If necessary, rewrite the equation in terms of sine, cosine, or tangent. I firmly agree with that. So let's rewrite this as cosine. Cosine of theta is 3 over 2 root 3. Now you may think, well, snap, I don't know an angle that's got a cosine of that. This is one time where we will need to rationalize. How do we rationalize? Gotcha, just like that. So the numerator is 3 root 3. What's the denominator? 2 times 3, 6. Which simplifies to what? Oh my gosh. I know angles that have a cosine of square root of 3 over 2, right? In quadrant 1, tell me an angle that has a... Give me an angle in quadrant 1 that has a cosine of square root of 3 over 2. 30 degrees. Good. Now, we're going to make a note of the 2 possible quadrants of termination for theta based on the sine of theta. That's SIGN. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this. Now this says my cosine is positive. What quadrants have a positive cosine? 1 and 4. So I'm going to have to find an answer in quadrant 1, and I'm going to have to find an answer in quadrant 4. But my answers have to be in this interval, okay? Now, it says to take the inverse trig ratio. We're doing this without a calculator, so I don't want you to worry about inverse trig. You don't worry about that. You already did it. What angle in quadrant 1 has a cosine of square root of 3 over 2? 30 degrees. What quadrant is that in? Oh my gosh, that's in quadrant 1, right? That's one of your answers. Oh my gosh. Now the question is, how do I find an answer in quadrant 4? Aha, because 30 degrees is going to be my reference angle. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Remember, okay, here's what you need to remember. Yes, that angle is negative 30 degrees. Not going to lie about that. But negative 30 degrees is not in this interval. So what you're going to do is you're going to go after that angle right there. Huh? Try that again. So your other angle is 330 degrees. Done. Depending on the quadrant. So we'll do some different where things are in different quadrants. But long story short is whatever you get out of quadrant 1, that's going to be your reference angle. Okay? Mm-hmm. No? Go ahead. Yes, you can have negative degree angles because that just means the what? The direction of rotation. Right. Look right here. Look right here. It's said to make the angles these. And negative 30 degrees is not in that interval. That's why. Yep. Okay. Now we're going to the calculator. Oh, wait, there's one at the bottom. Sorry. Yeah, there is. Ah, I did them. What are the other 2 steps? I did them. I did them right here. I did them. I did them. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do one more that you don't have to use your calculator. Use the plan described above to solve this equation. Sine theta equals negative root 3 over 2. Show your analysis. This just means show your dang work. Okay? Now, the first thing I'm going to think, what quadrants is sine negative in? Oh, come on. Sine is y. So I have to find an angle in quadrant 3, and I have to find an angle in quadrant 4. Now, always, do you hear me? Go back to your hand. And you find the angle in quadrant 1 that has a sine of square root 3 over 2. 60 degrees. So, my reference angle is 60 degrees.
Do we still have to do it in between these 2 numbers?
Yes, because it said use the plan above. So, what I'm going to have in quadrant 3 a reference angle of 60 degrees. So I need this angle. I'm sorry? I will do it in both. I'm just doing one at a time. Theta is 240 degrees. Now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it in the other quadrant, quadrant 4. Now I need a reference angle of 60 degrees in quadrant 4. So I need that angle. 300 degrees, and there are your answers. And yes, it's that easy. Now, you're going to have to use your calculator here. Please notice, what mode do you need to be in? Please be in degree mode. If it's in radians, you're going to get some really strange answers. Yeah. Yep. The first thing you're going to do is, what quadrants am I going to be in? This sign is positive. What quadrants have a positive sign?
1 and 2.
By golly, I'm going to be in quadrant 1, and I'm going to be in quadrant 2. I do not know off the top of my head, in fact, I don't know anywhere in my head what angle has a sine of 0.735. But I can do it on my calculator. If I want to undo multiplication, I divide. If I want to undo addition, I subtract. If I want to undo sine inverse. Sine inverse looks like this. Don't call it sine to the -1. That is sine inverse, and it is second sine. It'll mess up. Now, what do I want you to write down? I want you to write down this. Theta equals sine inverse of 0.735, because I want to know exactly what you plugged into your calculator. Plug it in. Oh, you already did. What'd you get?
47. Or 30, yeah.
Does anybody agree with Frankie? Okay. Is that one of our answers? Is that angle in a quadrant I need it to be in? Yes, it's in quadrant 1. How do I find the angle in quadrant 2? Because you are thinking, what is my reference angle in quadrant 2? That 47.307. And I'm needing this angle right here. So do 180 minus 47.307 and you get 132 degrees. And there you are. You can check them by typing in your calculator sine of this and see if you get 0.735. Question?
Do we need to draw the quadrants?
Yes. Draw the quadrants. Always, always. Do you have questions? If you're in quadrant 1, if one of your answers is in quadrant 1, you don't need to draw anything. But if the angles are other quadrants, please do. I think we can get through this one before lunch, I think. Which means we're going to come back with what? Just a few problems left to do, eh? 4? Shoot, there you go. All right. Cosine theta equals negative 0.482. What quadrants are we looking in? Cosine, x, what am I going to type into my calculator? Do it. Turn it on. I'm done. What do you get for your theta? Is that angle in a quadrant you want it to be in? 118 degrees is in quadrant 2, so I've got one of my answers. But I need the quadrant 3 angle. Aha! Aha! Kendra said, here's my 118.816. She said subtract that from 180 and that'll tell me my reference angle. And then use that same reference angle into quadrant 3. So what is that reference angle? $62?
Can we still go, like, we're going counterclockwise, moving them.
We will not go clockwise because we are not going to have a negative angle measure. So I'm not going to go clockwise. Question?
Why is 118 is
And less than 180. So the reference angle here was what, 61 point something? So that's my reference angle down here. Got dyslexic there for a minute. 61.184. So what is my quadrant 3 angle?
241.184.
And how'd you get that? Luke, how'd you get that?
Found the 61.184 and added that to 180.
Perfect. Found the reference angle and added it to 180. There are your answers. Is anything bugging you so far? We'll stop there till after lunch. It is now. I'm not going to do cosecant because I can do sine. So the sine of theta, that's interesting. Let's try that again. Yeah, the sine of theta is going to equal what? 1 over. Now we're still going quadrants. That's bad. I don't know if that's any better, but 3 and 4, good. Now, what are you going to type into your calculator? Theta equals sine inverse. Now listen, you're going to write this step down. I want to see what you typed into your calculator. What are you getting? Negative 54.068. Now, we got to talk about that number. Is that in the interval? So let's take a look at where that angle is. In what quadrant is that angle? Negative 54 degrees. Quadrant 4, because if you rotate clockwise 54 degrees. So I want you to think about this. Here is that angle, negative 54.068 degrees. Yeah. That angle's in quadrant 4, but it's not the right name. It's not between 0 and 360 degrees. What I'm wanting is this angle right here. How do I find it? Now remember, that's a negative number, so be careful. I'm going to do 360 minus 54.068, but since the number that is on your screen right now is negative, yeah, just do this plus 360. Remember, if you add 360 to any angle that's already in degrees, you're going to get a coterminal angle. And coterminal angles have the same trig functions, same trig ratios. So if you add 360 to that, what are you going to get? 305 point, what'd you say? 931? 932? Okay. Now, you need to mark that out. That is not one of your answers, okay? But that's sure helping you get your answers. That angle's in quadrant 4. I need another angle, but it needs to be in quadrant 3. How am I going to find the angle that's in quadrant 3? Plus what? Because I need to put my reference angle here of 54.068 degrees. And I need this angle right here. Good. What's that, 230 something? 234.068. And there are your two angles. You okay? Question?
So, 54.068 is not the answer to angle theta.
That's correct. That's correct. All right, we got one more on this page. Tangent. I can do inverse tangent or tangent inverse on my calculator, so I'm happy to leave tangent inverse. Tangent is negative. What quadrants have a negative tangent? Good, so I'm going to look for an angle in quadrant 2 and an angle in quadrant 4. What am I going to type into my calculator? Tangent inverse. Tangent inverse of negative 0.892. What are you getting? Is that what everybody's getting? Is that one of our answers? No, because it's negative. What quadrant is negative 41 degrees in? That's in quadrant 4, which is where we want one of our answers, right? But it doesn't carry the right kind of name. What is my reference angle? Yeah, that's my reference angle. So I'm just looking for this angle right here. How'd you get it?
Added 360 to negative 40.
There you go. So you can do 360 minus 41.733, or if you've just got this negative, then just add 360 to that. So one of your angles, what'd you say, 318?
Yes, 267.
Thank you. So there's one of your answers. How are you going to find the angle in quadrant 2? It's going to have something to do with 180, you betcha. Quadrant 2, what's that reference? Excuse me, I'm choking. What's the reference angle? 41.733. So I am looking for this angle. $138.268. Agreed? 267? 7 or 8? A thousandth different, I'm not going to complain. So that's either, that number there can be, I wouldn't complain 7 or 8. Go ahead.
How would know which, like, the quadrant tangent would be?
Because we know that we're given an angle that has a negative tangent, and we know that tangent is negative in quadrants 2 and 4. Reason, do you remember the day that I had you put cosine, sine, tangent in each quadrant? And in quadrant 2, cosine, which is the x value, is cosine, and sine is, but tangent is sine divided by cosine. So that's going to have to be negative there. So it's whatever quadrant sine and cosine have opposite signs.
You're going to give us a lot of space in the test so we can draw all these.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So will tangent always be negative? It's not divided by cosine.
No, if you're in quadrant 1 or quadrant 3, sine and cosine have the same signs, so when you divide them, you'll get a positive. Is that better? Okay. Aha. What's different? Radians. We're in radian mode, so what do you need to do to your calculator? Radian mode.
So, wait, if it has a time, we're going to switch to radian?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Let's do radians. Look, the method is still exactly the same. You just have your calculator in radian mode, not degree mode. But you do the same thing. No. No. All right. Here we've got a cosine that's negative. That's crooked as a crooked. What quadrants have a negative cosine? What am I going to do on my calculator? Which one? Now, you are in radian mode on your calculator. Type it in. What do you mean, is it going to mess it up? No, not going to mess up anything. Degrees? No degrees, because we're in radians, and you don't put a pi on it. It doesn't have a pi in there. Are you getting that on your calculator?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, what quadrant's that in?
Quadrants, one and... No.
What quadrant is that in? That's in radians.
No, it's in 4.
Defend your answer. Defend your answer.
Because when you go that way, because it's 2 pi and a little bit. So if
2 pi. Hang on.
No, it's almost, it's a 2.
oh, so it'd be
Almost
plus
another
3.
5.
How much is pi?
Oh.
How much is pi in?
Oh.
What if you put pi? What? Pi is like 3.14.
So it's not even 1/8.
Right. This is yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, because pi is 3.14 something, this number's almost that, but not quite. That's in quadrant 2. You have a lot of room at the bottom of that page. Now, I want you to go down there. This does not have to be large. What we're going to do is we're going to write down radian measures. And we're going to go to your calculator and see what the decimal equivalence of each one of those is. What's pi divided by 2? I know that, but do it on your calculator. Physically do pi divided by 2. Okay, 1.57 roughly. Far right side. Pi is roughly 3.14. What's 3 pi divided by 2? Say again, 4.71? 2 pi? This might help you. We got 2.97 something, less than 3.14. So we know that angle's in quadrant 2. You with me? All right, let's go back up and finish up. Nope. There is no way for your calculator to give you an answer in terms of pi. Yes. Yes, but don't do that. The answer to that is yes, but don't. Is this an answer, an angle that we were looking for? Is it in the proper quadrant? Yes. How do we find the angle in quadrant 3? Oops. So right here is the 2.967. What's the reference angle? Say again? Point 0.17? Give me one more decimal place. Is that right? 0.173? And how did you get that, Faith? Okay, so you did pi minus that answer. So what am I going to do with that reference angle?
Does it matter if we do pi or equal or?
Do pi. Pi is exact, so do pi. So what am I going to do with this reference angle to help me find my angle in quadrant 3? Yeah, look, I want 0.173 there, right? So I'm looking for this angle. So what am I going to do? Pi plus that. Pi plus that. So my other angle is going to be 3 point something.
3.3.
How are we sure that that's an angle in quadrant 3?
It's a little bit more than 5.
You bet. It's between 3.14 and 4.71. So there are your two angles. Question?
What did you subtract 0.173 from to get it?
To get this number right here? This one? Or this one? I don't know which one you're asking about. The 3.315?
She added it. She just.
Okay, you added it.
Yeah, that's this angle down here, this one. So that's pi plus that. One more. One more. Do you have a question, Tristan?
So, I think once you get the three, switch it into right.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
Okay.
One more. Cotangent of theta is 5.671. Tangent. Oh, so the tangent of theta is good. The tangent of this angle is positive. What quadrants have a positive tangent? 1 and 3, right. What are we going to type in our calculator? Tangent inverse. Perfect. Run it. Please, again, use your alpha y equals to get your fraction. That's what I got. Tell me if you get that. What quadrant is that in? 0.175. That's in quadrant 1 because it's less than pi over 2 or 1.57. Is that a quadrant that I wanted? So that's one of my answers. How do I find the triangle, excuse me, the angle in quadrant 3? What's my reference angle?
7 or 0.17.
That's right. This is my reference angle, 0.175. Perfect. So I'm looking for that. Frankie said it's pi plus that. Three point.
0.316 or 17.
How are we doing? Is that angle in quadrant 3? You bet. It's between 3.14 and 4.71. So we're good. Radians, yeah.
I just trying to figure out why
Oh, no. Have
degrees
you?
got so small on
Oh.
paper. And I was like,
Be careful on your mode. Make sure if it's degree, you're in degree mode. If it's radian, you're in radian mode. Do you have questions? Is there anything here that puzzled you at all? All right, then.